Welcome to Planet Raconteur's Halloween special. I am your host, Yuck Nasty. Let's do it. You are gonna love this. We got stories by G. Allen Wilbanks, Corey Mallonee, Mark Anthony Smith, Alan Baxter, and J. Robert Dewitt.
This is Planet Raconteur. Who's not Aaron else?
I killed a man today. I didn't do it on purpose. It was a mistake. I meant to kill him. I put my gun to his head and pulled the trigger, but when I cut out his heart, I realized that I had killed a human being. He's not the first human I've killed. He won't be the last. That's the price that I've had to pay as an alien hunter. Acceptable losses. The aliens can make themselves appear to be just like us. Their disguise is almost flawless. Almost. You have to know what you're looking for to spot them. A slight awkwardness to their gait. They're not used to walking on only two legs. An odd body odor. Certain mispronunciations of words. But the only guaranteed way to identify the aliens without question is to cut them open. The creatures have no heart. When you open them up, the chest is empty. Unfortunately, it's impractical to go around cutting into people's chests on the street, so I'm reduced to watching for the little signs that separate them from us. You must be vigilant to spot the subtle differences. I am vigilant. I've identified 8 potential aliens. So far, they've all had hearts when I cut their dead bodies open. Acceptable losses. The aliens are dangerous. They are a threat to the very existence of our race. They will not hesitate to wipe us out, so we must destroy them first. 8 times I have killed. 8 times I've been wrong. I haven't actually found an alien yet, but I know they are among us. I know they are. Others don't believe me when I tell them. They don't believe the aliens exist, but I will prove it to them. I must, to save them. I will continue to hunt the aliens, and if I must kill 1,000 human beings before I find the proof I need, so be it. I must persevere, or we are all doomed. What are 1,000 lives when compared to millions if the aliens win? They are among us. They are the enemy. I am the alien hunter. Fear me.
The Man's Smile by J. Robert Dewitt. He says he can bring your wife back, but on one condition. Then he leans across your kitchen table and whispers to you.
You're gonna have to take care of that girl.
I won't do that.
Then you're out of luck.
I could never do that to a child.
Humans have done much worse for far less.
He leans back and smiles with his large yellow teeth. For a moment, words float to your mouth. This is over, you want to say. But instead, you're silent. This is how you realize you are considering his offer. Hesitation presses inside you. A bubble rising in your chest, and this terrifies you. Not the man, not his teeth, not his whispered condition, but the fact that some part of you wants to accept his offer.
I am the only one who can bring her back. No one else can do that.
You know this is true. You've seen his ship hidden behind your farm, deep in the forest. He's shown you all the secrets inside, told you truths about time and space, given you visions of other worlds, realms of unknown dimension. And he has proven to you over a cup of coffee in your kitchen that he can bring your wife back. Why me?
Because I know you'll do it.
That night you cannot sleep. You sit on the couch and stare at the photo of your wife. with your fingers touching the smiling face behind the glass. She's been gone 8 years, but you've never let go. Her clothes still hang in the closet. Her makeup still lies cluttered in the drawers. Her last voicemail still flashes on the recorder, a single red number glowing in the dark. You set her photo on the table. You tell her about the traveler and his ship, and you try to explain his offer. But you can't say the words out loud. All you can say is, "I'm sorry, honey, but I love you too much." The man arrives the next morning from the forest. You watch him through the kitchen window as he walks across the cornfield, the stalks brushing against his suitcase.
You'll need to drive to the city. That's where she lives.
I haven't said yes yet.
But I know you will. Everything you need is inside. Do not open it until you are there.
Why don't you do it? You can do anything.
There are rules you're not aware of that cannot be broken, and watchers to make sure those rules are kept. And then there's loopholes. You are my loophole.
From his pocket, he slides out a photo of the little girl. Brown hair and dimples, just like your wife. He hands it to you. You hold it, staring at the girl. I can't do this.
Yes, you can. She may look cute, but give her 20 years.
What happens then?
She'll develop a rare virus. It'll spread. It will kill everyone of your kind, including you.
Can't you stop it?
Not while they're watching. Not if they knew it was me. It wouldn't be natural. They would reverse it.
Then why me? Why not just get some thug to do it? The man smiles.
A thug they would suspect, but you they will not.
You stare at the photo again. She has blue eyes just like your wife. I can't promise anything.
I know that.
You fold the photo and you slip it into your chest pocket. The paper is light, but it feels heavy, as if made of lead. So what's in this for you?
Does it matter?
It matters to me. I'd like to know. The man leans forward. On the table, he folds his hands into a little chapel.
I care about your species. So much potential. So young. Why let a little virus take all that away? Such a waste.
You sit there and stare at his yellow teeth. There's something about this moment that makes you feel alive. You're aware of your breathing. The air flowing in and out of your nostrils and out through your mouth. Blood courses through your veins to your fingertips. Perhaps this is the verve, delivered from 8 years of numbness, that makes you stand from the table and grab the suitcase. I'm still not promising anything. I could never do that to a child. But the man's smile makes you think otherwise.
The Cat is a Metaphor by Mallonee. So this guy I know, he broke up with his boyfriend, but they lived together for a while after because they shared a lease, which is basically just as awkward as you would expect. And they had a cat. This gray tabby who was missing half of one ear, and both of them refused to feed it on the grounds that it was the other's problem, so they kept living together. And fought, and exchanged bitchy comments, and occasionally had sex when they got drunk and or felt maudlin. And the cat got thinner, and thinner, and thinner. Eventually the cat died, only this was some kind of macabre-ass Schrodinger's scenario, in that it was impossible to say exactly when the cat died because it kept going like nothing had changed. It still scratched furniture and meowed and rubbed up against your leg, except now its claws got stuck in the furniture, and its meowing sounded kind of wet and decayed. And when it rubbed on you, it left streaks of itself behind, ruining your favorite pair of jeans. Not that I'm still bitter or anything. And in death, as in life, it really liked lazing around in sunbeams, which you can imagine what that did for the smell. Anyway, my friend finally moved out once his lease was up. I ran into him a few weeks back and I asked him whatever happened to that cat. He told me that after a while it got down to a skeleton and it would just prance around trying to get their attention. Clack, 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 clack. And they both just tried to ignore it. And each other. Until one day at breakfast, the cat was dancing across the table and it stopped. And it looked from my friend to his ex and back. And then a minute later, it kind of shuddered and collapsed into a little pile of bones. And then the bones turned to dust. And at some point, my friend or his ex, he can't remember which, they swept the dust into the trash. Its animating force diffused. A memory. A whisper. A fading dream. The end.
All You Can Eat by Mark Anthony Smith. The streets are quiet for a Saturday afternoon. There's lots of newspaper sheets blowing about in the wind and dust everywhere. It's foggy, too. There's few cars and no one seems to have an appetite for shopping anymore. John smiles at the cliche of the city looking like a ghost town. It is the first thought that has entered his head since worrying about meeting Cynthia. They met online. It's all the rage these days. Cynthia likes horror films, trips abroad, and is fed up with meeting psychos. John thinks the same. There's lots of fake profile pictures or people with too many hang-ups. He just wants an easy life, nothing too serious. Just a few laughs and someone to lend an ear on occasion. Cynthia isn't interested in material things. She likes eating out and a man with a good sense of humor. John is attracted to Cynthia's photo of her windsurfing somewhere in Malta with her blonde hair blowing over her face and a wide, cheeky smile. In contrast, she looks protective in her cream woolen jumper with the puppy picture. Cynthia likes that John reads and is educated with a biology degree. She thinks she can get him to try new things, but in reality, John is a creature of habit, though. He's not as outgoing as he suggested. He walks toward the Chinese buffet where they'd agreed to meet on their first date. Cynthia was a bit funny about eating in front of John so soon, but he managed to humor her. A three-legged dog hobbles past. There seems to be something wrong with its eyes. Its mouth is foaming and it keeps knocking into lampposts, litter bins, and a street sign as it approaches. The poor mutt is whimpering. John bends down to pet it. "Aw, come on, boy, watch where you're going." He scratches the dog's ear and recoils. It comes off in his hand. There's white maggots or worms writhing from the fresh wound. The dog doesn't feel pain. It limps over and licks John's hand. "Oh, fuck off. Get off me, you flea-ridden dirtbag." The dog cocks his head as the pupilless eyes stream. "Oh, fuck off, lassie. Go away." John runs to the Chinese. He's really aware of his appearance as he smooths his field jacket down like it's covered in hairs. The restaurant on George Street is busy. It's more run down than John recalls. It looks like the electricians have popped for a tea break mid-job. Some of the loose cables are sparking. The decor couldn't be more tasteless, too. The wallpaper from the 1960s is peeling, and there's a lot of dust covering the tables and lampshades. It's quite dark inside. John thinks it's an unusual ambiance. He looks anxiously for Cynthia. He spots her by the window. John pecks her on the cheek and offers his hand. Cynthia leans in. She has a lot of makeup on. Her floral dress has been ripped. "Did you bike here?" Cynthia looks puzzled. "I just thought your dress was caught in the chain." She laughs. "You are funny," she says, before muttering something under her breath. John thinks she looks older than he'd imagined. He wonders where all the staff is. Cynthia looks over his shoulder as she swings her legs in boredom. They're sat on swivel bar stools and she's decided she's uncomfortable. There's a man who's lost a lot of weight but hasn't shopped for clothes. She thinks his frame is peculiar as he's ravenous for the leg of what's probably lamb. "Where's all the staff?" John smiles. He was just thinking the same thing. They're probably on dinner break or something. She looks off. John feels hungry now. He notices how delicate Cynthia's bracelet and necklace is. Then he sees the bandages below her neckline. He's thinking about windsurfing in Malta. Cynthia looks at her watch, but it's missing. "Where's all this band?" She asks this like it's a new observation. "Are you feeling okay, Cynthia?" She nods. Her neck is a little jerky, as if she's trying to balance her head. John thinks that Cynthia doesn't think very much. He asks her if she's been here before. "Oh, yes. Lots of would like to meet me here." John guffaws. He cuts his laugh short. She's being deadly serious. "I see," he reflects after a quiet age. "Well, it's good that you're popular." He wants to go. John cuts her short with a finger on his pouting lips. He could pass as a librarian. "I think it's self-service," he adds. Cynthia looks surprised. She's bewildered. John leans in. He has an odd thought. He thinks that Cynthia has the shortest memory, like a goldfish. He gets up. "Let's get something to eat, shall we?" Cynthia gently nods. He gestures for her to go first. He sweeps his arm again. She laughs. John is impatient. She obviously doesn't do chivalry. She follows him to the buffet. There's lots of colorful fare on offer. The meats are covered in thick red sauce that must be sweet and sour. It's irregular and looks home-cooked rather than overly processed, square, and earlier frozen. She's looking a bit shifty. Maybe it's the ambiance. John starts to pile his plate up like there's a famine. He expects Cynthia to say, "You can always go back for more," or "You've got a healthy appetite, John," but she's silent. She hasn't got a plate. John pops his down as he fetches her one. Then he sees the axe embedded in the back of her skull. He reaches for it like a pesky fly. He isn't surprised by the new adornment. He grabs the wooden handle. She takes a fancy to his arm. She feasts as he pulls his severed limb away. Mephisto by Alan Baxter.
I need a volunteer.
Mephisto scanned the crowd, one hand shielding his eyes as if from the bright sun. His red-lined black cape whipped around as he strode from one side of the stage to the other. Dozens of hands shot up, clamoring to be chosen. Mephisto squinted, heart hammering. He so hated this bit, but had little choice. "There's always a choice," a voice whispered in the back of his mind, and he squashed it away into its dark corner. His gaze fell upon a young boy, maybe 11 or 12, smiling in anticipation. His hand wasn't raised, and of course, that made him perfect. Mephisto singled him out, one long finger bright in the spotlights.
What about you, lad?
The boy's eyes widened and he looked left and right. One trembling hand rose, pointed to his own skinny chest.
Me?
Yes, you. Come on, I'll make you famous.
The boy's parents sat on either side of him, nodding enthusiastically. Cajoling from the crowd drove the boy from his seat, up darkened steps and past voluminous crimson velvet curtains. Brass half-shells along the stage front cupped incandescent bulbs. Mephisto grinned over the brightness of the audience as they encouraged the boy along. When the young man reached him, Mephisto laid an arm across bony shoulders.
What's your name, lad?
Matthew.
Mephisto turned back to the crowd.
Matthew, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoops and wild applause disgusted the magician. These easily entertained masses. To hide his grimace, he made a theatrical turn, swept Matthew along to a tall black wooden box at center stage. It had a double door, split top and bottom like a stable, with bright silver tape marking edges that sparkled in the spotlight. The crowd oohed. Mephisto pulled open the two half doors. The box was empty. The crowd awed. How he hated them. Matthew looked terrified, pinned by the beam of light from the gallery. Mephisto couldn't blame him.
Please, step inside.
What are you going to do?
I told you. I'm going to make you famous.
The boy nervously moved forward and turned around, looked out over a sea of expectant faces, partially obscured by the glowing coronas before them. Mephisto closed the bottom door. Only Matthew's head and shoulders showed over it.
You've seen me perform all kinds of magic this evening, ladies and gentlemen.
The magician called out.
You've been impressed, yes?
The crowd whooped and hollered. Mephisto lowered his voice, forced the crowd to be silent to hear.
But do you believe I can make a young boy disappear?
The crowd assured him they could. Of course they did. They were in the palm of his hand.
I'm scared.
He winked at Matthew, closed the top half of the door.
What are you going to do?
The boy's frightened questions came through the wood.
Hello?
But he ignored them. Mephisto addressed the crowd again.
Clap for me, folks. Slow and steady. Like this.
He set a measured rhythmic applause going. As the audience carried it, he raised his hands high. The energy from this room full of sheep was powerful. But that was ever the case. Never underestimate the malleable vigor of people in large numbers. Their desperate need for entertainment to muffle, however briefly, mundane lives. He let that energy rush through him, absorbed it, mutated it. He spoke the words. A low roar like distant water powering through a canyon rose in the auditorium. It built up, rising with the frenzied clapping of the audience. They felt it more than heard it, clapped faster and faster, began to cheer and laugh and bay. Mephisto drew that power in, and the roar rose to a deafening crescendo. Sparks and flames burst out around the box and quickly vanished. The box stood dark and still. The crowd gasped and faltered. The noise sank away like a tide, until silence rang in the theater. Mephisto slowly lowered his arms and a grin spread across his face. He turned and threw open the doors. Young Matthew was nowhere to be seen. The crowd erupted in applause and laughter. Mephisto strode to the front of the stage and bowed once, twice, thrice. With a sweep of his cape, he turned and walked swiftly into the darkened wings. The last thing he saw was the nervous smiles on the faces of Matthew's parents, the empty chair between them. He packed quickly in his dressing room while the crowd's approval sounded slightly muted through the walls. He stuffed his magician's garb into his hard leather case and put on the shabby suit and scuffed shoes that disguised him with their normalcy. He pulled off the dark hairpiece and ran one hand over stubbly blonde hair. It only took a moment to wipe away thick makeup, revealing pocked and pale skin. In just a couple of minutes, he was done, grabbed his case, and left by the stage door, into a grimy alley. A dark shadow, vaguely man-shaped, awaited him. Beside the shadow, a smaller presence trembled, emanating terror. "Thank you, George," the shadow said. "Mephisto, really?" George shrugged.
As good as any. I'm running out of names. It's fitting, though, isn't it?
The shadow laughed, a terrible sound. "Same time next year, George." The magician scowled, pushed past the darkness, wincing at its icy presence.
Yes.
What's it been now? 212 years?
213. Don't play games with me.
The deep, ominous chuckle again. "Anytime you want it to end, just come to me. I'll be happy to have you." The shadow winked out with a burst of frost before George could reply. He ground his teeth, hating himself, hating people, hating everything, and scurried from the alley,
As he turned down the street away from the theater, he heard a woman's voice inside, high-pitched in anguish, screaming for someone to do something. He hunched into himself and made for the train station.